Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I'm your host, Big Les. We're going to be going through our 1 to 17s today for every single NRL team. Obviously, a few trial games have happened since this podcast has come out. We're recording this before the trial, so if there's a breakout star on the trials that we think is going to make the 17, if there's a season-ending injury to one of the first graders playing in these trials over the weekend, we won't know about it. And this is obviously going before those trial games have happened, so we wouldn't know how the results of any of those games, anything like that. So just keep in mind before this podcast begins, this is being recorded before the trials to come out after the first week of trials. We're going to kick it off. So you would have seen this post if you follow the Instagram. If you don't, follow the Instagram, Big LEZ'S League. We did remove the underscore behind Big LEZ'S League. It is just Big LEZ'S League, BIGLEZ'S LEAGUE. There on Instagram. Give us a follow, and you'll be able to see these team lists all there as well. You can probably swipe through as we're going through the video, or if you want a bit of a sneak peek, if you're a little bit impatient, you can get in there and have a look as well. But let's get stuck in. Also, as well, just before we begin, I'm playing in this Sports Shed TV charity match, the Sports Shed TV charity match on the 22nd of February at Ringrose Park. That is in Wentworthville in Parramatta. Myself, a bunch of other rugby league podcasters, Brad Tuckerangi will be playing in that game as well. There'll be another NRL player on the other team who I cannot disclose yet, but it is a very good NRL player and is going to make their team so stacked as well. It's going to be a really good game this year. I think it's going to be a much closer game as well. So I'm very excited. Even last year, by the end of the game, it went right down to the wire. They nearly came back at the end, goanna. We at MHF, we just know how to play good rugby league football. We get the job done. Get your tickets. It's a great day. It'll be a great day for the youngsters as well. We've got plenty of games, food trucks, all that sort of stuff is there. So buy your tickets. They'll be in the link below. Let's get started. We'll start off with the Newcastle Knights. You've probably been staring at this team list while I've been yapping away, but we're going to go through it now. Ponga is my fullback. I've got Greg Marju on the left wing, Dom Young on the right side. A lot of people would have Fletcher Sharp on one of those wings, considering, Sandon Smith. You probably want him in that halfback position. You want an actual bona fide halfback in that number 7 role. You've got one at the club. Why wouldn't you use him is my sort of argument there. Fletcher Sharp, for me, more of a fullback. You can give him a bit of a roaming license on the wing. He doesn't have to sit on that wing. And even how good he played on the wing, last year as well. At least while you're trying to figure everything out. And, for me, Fletcher Sharp's their long-term fullback. After Callum Ponga or whatever happens with Callum Ponga over the next 2 years. I think that Fletcher Sharp will be their long-term fullback. So I'd have him on the wing, have him in a bit of a roaming role. And obviously, if there's injuries to Ponga at the start of the year, he'll be in there playing fullback anyway. It seems though throughout the trials, and again, you'll have a better idea than me, guys, as to what this is going to look like, but it seems like there's going to be a battle between Sandon Smith and Fletcher Sharp for that 7 jersey. But as far as the wings go at the moment, I've got Greg Marju and Dom Young. I just don't think Fletcher Sharp will be put on the wing. From all the vibes I get from Justin Holbrook, and although putting him on the wing does make a lot of sense, the vibes from Justin Holbrook is that he will not go on the wing. It's not going to happen. So, obviously things can change in a season, but from the vibe I get from Holbrook, he's not going to play on the wing. I think Marju was great last year. A lot of people giving him criticism. I think that he was really good. Obviously, there's injury concern there, but I still think that there's no reason to drop him. So Marju's there on the left wing, Dom Young on the right side. I've got Bradman Best, Dane Gagai centers. Don't need to break that down too much. Dylan Brown 6, Sandon Smith 7. We've sort of already talked about that. It'll be a battle between Sandon Smith and Fletcher Sharp for that vacant half spot. But I think Sandon Smith will get it. I think, as I said, you've got a bona fide halfback in that team. Why wouldn't you use it? Dill Brown, one of the game's best 6s. I'd hate to see him in a 7 role. Jacob Saifidi, Trey Mooney up front. I think Trey Mooney by mid-season to end of year, he will pretty much lock in that starting role and be playing 50-55 minutes a game. Guru's a big fan of him, and just having conversations with him and seeing him on different podcasts, especially the Supercoach orientated ones. Big fan of Trey Mooney. Apparently has played 80-minute games in New South Wales Cup. He is going to be probably one of the better forwards at Newcastle. The vibes I get from him and just what I've seen in little bits and pieces are from Trey Mooney as well. It looks like he's going to probably be or have a similar career trajectory to a James Fisher-Harris, really starting at this sort of stage to his career to really round out his game and be a really strong front rower in this competition. I can see that in him. I think that, obviously losing Leo Thompson and getting in Trey Mooney, the more and closer we get, I guess, to season, I just get better and better vibes from Trey Mooney. So definitely one to watch there. Jacob Saifidi too. I think he's in for a big season. Crossland in the 9. I think that is his jersey now. A lot of people talking about he should play lock, he should play this, he should play that. He is a number 9 in this team for me. He is the best 9 in this team, in my opinion. Put him there. Don't fix something that isn't broken. Dylan Lucas, Jermaine McEwen there in the back rows. Obviously, Dylan Lucas there on the left side, Jermaine McEwen on the right side. I think that that's pretty obvious. McEwen had a huge season last year, and that's right back row spot is vacant. Obviously, Jermaine McEwen, after last year, is definitely the standard to take that role after his time replacing and standing in for Dylan Lucas when Dylan Lucas was out with injury. Matty Croker there at 13. I just think he's such a servant to that club, and I'd give him that jersey to start the year. I know that Frizzell will most likely be the skipper of this outfit, and it sounds like he is. But I think that Matt Croker, for what he's done for this team, obviously when they've had a bunch of guys out, he's been there 13, and he's played some outstanding football for them as well. I would have him in there in jersey 13. I love what I've seen from him. I think that he is very safe. You know what you're going to get from Matt Croker, and I'm not looking at him as an 80-minute lock forward. I'm looking at him as maybe a 50, 55-minute back row, lock forward, sorry. You can bring on guys like Frizzell for shorter 20, 25, maybe 30-minute stints in a game. I just doubt you'll see Tyson Frizzell go any longer than 30 minutes at this stage in his career. So I think starting Matt Croker there and then bringing on Frizzell through the middle in those sort of stints, it actually works out well for Frizzell. It'd be a much less of a load on Frizzell rather than being the skipper, being the captain, playing big minutes. And I think with how many injuries this Newcastle Knights side is having, I think that the less load you can put on these older guys, the better. So I'd be having Matt Croker starting and playing majority of the game at 13 with Frizzell to come on in that role for about 25 to 30 minutes. My bench, so obviously Frizzell's there. I've got either Frizzell or Cody Hopwood. I think Cody Hopwood will be there by end of season. As good as Frizzell is, I think he is coming to the back end of his career. He's a fantastic player. He's the skipper or will be the skipper, it sounds like, of this side. But I think Cody Hopwood's the future. I think he's the future 13 as well. And I'd be getting him more and more game time by the week as well. He's definitely a guy that I'd have in this side. Pasami Solo is also on the bench in my rotation there in jersey number 15. Fletcher Sharp's my 14. So I've got Fletcher Sharp, Pasami Solo from Canberra, and then I've also got either Tyson Frizzell or Cody Hopwood. Jersey 17's up for grabs for me. I could go either one of Brodie Jones, who I love, Elijah Salesa Leo Moana, who was also great at the back end of last year. And then Lachlan Crouch, who there's a lot of raps on, and I've seen little bits and pieces of him. Very, very impressive. I think that Crouch will definitely be in there by end of season. If I was to pick two of these guys gun to head to round out my side and with more of a look into the future, I'd probably go with Cody Hopwood at 16 and Lachlan Crouch at 17. But to start the year more so, and because he is the skipper, I think to start the season, my bench would be Fletcher Sharp, Pasami Solo, Tyson Frizzell, and probably Brodie Jones. I think that's the safest way you can go. Lachlan Crouch, Cody Hopwood, they can work their way and force their way into this team throughout the season. The biggest question marks around the Newcastle Knights for me, Ponga, his future. Tino's obviously locked himself into 2030 with the Gold Coast Titans. Are we going to see Callum Ponga do the same? It doesn't sound like it. The longer this situation goes, for me, it just feels like Ponga's leaving. And I know Newcastle fans get angry every time I say it. Ponga's come out and denied the fact that he's going to go anywhere, and at least he's going to, stay and finish off his contract until the end of 2027. I think he's gone. I really do. I think that at least at the end of 2027, he'll be looking for other options. And I almost feel like Newcastle are going to go down that way anyway, just with how good Fletcher Sharp is and just looking with a bit of an eye to the future, Ponga injuries, things like that. Especially if Ponga has another injury-affected season, that might be a fast-track thing. And I love Callum Ponga. I think at his best, he's one of the best fullbacks in the game. Love Callum Ponga. If you listen to any of my earlier podcasts, I've been in the game for a while. If you listen to any of my earlier podcasts, you would know how much of a fan of Callum Ponga I am. It's just with the injuries and Fletcher Sharp, you've got all these guys in this side now. You've recruited in this sort of way. You've got guys even like Toby Winters and these sort of guys coming through the grades as well that are really, really close, at least in the next 2 to 3 years, to come into this team and be the future. I just feel like, the wheels are moving too fast for them and they've got to make a call. And I think the call will have to be, unfortunately, and I love Callum Ponga, but I do see Callum Ponga leaving at the end of 2027. That's just me. Other questions is, obviously, who's the halfback, Sharp or Smith? For me, it's got to be Sandon Smith. Again, you've got a bona fide halfback in that side. You've got to use him. And then number 3, do they have the pack to allow them to play their best football? That's going to be the big question for me. Right now, I don't have the answer. A lot of that really relies on guys like Mooney, on guys like, your even Pasami Soldals and your Cody Hopwoods and how they've sort of progressed. Frizzell, how he's looking, where he's sort of sitting in his career as well. Is this his last year potentially? Guys like whoever obviously takes jersey 17, your Jones, Liam Moanas and Lachlan Crouches, these sort of guys on the bench, how do they sort of come in and impact the game? Dylan Lucas, how prominent he is. I think that he's definitely got origin potential all over him, Dylan Lucas. So how these guys sort of win the middle is to how much go forward this side's going to have and obviously how much, momentum they can play off for guys like Brown, guys like Smith, guys like Ponga, guys like Sharp as well if he's on the wing. Let's move on. The Wars. Let's get stuck into their 17. We'll obviously move through the teams a little bit quicker than that. Obviously, we had a little bit of a ramble at the start, so we'll get through the next couple of teams a little bit quicker. For the Warriors, I've got Chance and Nickel Clockstad to start the year at fullback. I think Tane at Tuapicki's got a bit of an injury. This is to a best 17. I could have Tane there at fullback, but for me, Chance, his defensive reads at the back at fullback, it's just too important for this Warriors team. I think they need him at the back there. As much as I love Tane Tuapicki and I think he's the future of this side, I think that he will be the fullback at some stage. I just love Chance's defense, and he's fucking kept them in games. He's kept them in games with try-saving tackles, really good reads out the back there at fullback. He's a workhorse. I love Chance, and I think that obviously injury-free, he is their fullback for me. Bit of a Dr. Zeus there, by the way. Alifiana Khan Pereira, for me, takes the left wing spot. Roger moves into right centre. I think that's the best possible way that this side is shaped. It obviously leaves guys like Rocco Berry, who, again, he's got another injury coming into this year. You got a couple of other younger guys as well, like Ali Leah Towers and these sort of guys sort of sitting in the back line waiting to... that's pretty funny. This is the back line, but the back row, I should say. Sort of waiting and sussing out if there's any injuries and stuff like that to force their way into this team. Unfortunately, even your Hayes and Mellors, like new recruits like that, backline players, young guys that they've got in this team, are really going to have to bide their time in reserve grade before they come in. Alifiana Khan Pereira, though, I've heard only good things about how he's trained with the Warriors, and I think that he's going to win that spot. Defensively as well, I think he has improved. I think that was one thing that I've sort of heard little whispers on. He looks pretty good in the preseason. Dallin Watene-Zalesniak on the right wing. I think they've got to give him the start of the year there. If there's dramas, you can move guys around. Roger can move out one and you can move in a Rocco Berry or you can move in an Ali Leah Tower, these sort of guys, if Dallin doesn't play good footy. But I think Dallin will play good footy. I think that he'll be back to his best this year. Had a couple of injuries last year. I think that the mindset would have been a little bit clouded by that, and obviously it would have affected him mentally a little bit. I think this year, with the Warriors, the way that they're looking, once Metcalf is back, they start to get on a bit of a roll. His confidence is only going to go up, which I'm hoping anyway, and he'll play some good footy. He'll stay in this side and obviously win the crowd back a little bit, because he's semi-lost the crowd a little bit. Rog Tuivasa-Sheck, right centre. As much as I love him on the left wing, and I think him and Adam Pompey built up a really nice little combination. If you want to fit Alifiana Khan Pereira in somewhere, that's the sacrifice you're going to have to make. I could very easily have Rocco Berry or Ali Leotau at right centre and have Roger Tuivasa-Sheck start the year at left wing. I think that if you had your side like that, I wouldn't disagree with it whatsoever. For me, though, I think Alefiana Camperell, with all the great things I've heard from him and how he's trained throughout the preseason, I'd have him there to start the year. And I think that him and Adam Pompey could build a really nice combo there if Adam Pompey has another big year like he did last year. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck there at right centre, I think could still do a very good job setting up Dallin, and I think that him and Dallin can build up a nice little combo as well. The defence is probably going to be the big one, but Roger, he's got an iron shoulder, that bloke. He can defend anything. Chanel Aristevita is going to be my 6, Luke Metcalf my 7. I wouldn't change up the winning formula from last year. I'd keep it pretty much the same. Really, really enjoyed Chanel Aristevita last year, particularly when Metcalf was out. He looked unbelievable. So he's my 6. Metcalf is my 7. And we're sort of starting to see a huge season from Metcalf last year as well. Would have been the Dalian player of the year if he hadn't been injured. I think he's in for a massive season. Barnett and Fisher Harris, I've got there in the front row. I think that's pretty obvious. Wade Egan, 9. Again, pretty obvious. Awesome hooker. It's just going to be the injury watch for me. Sam Healy's going to be sitting and waiting for a spot there. Leka Halasema for me is left back row. I think Kurt Capewell has to be a right back rower until he decides to hang up the boots. He proves reliable time and time again when you think there's a little bit of a slump with form. And I've been very critical of Kurt Capewell on this podcast, particularly last year. He proves you wrong, and he just skyrockets. So Kurt Capewell for me, he will be in there. He was an MVP last year for me for Queensland. He was unbelievable. So yeah, I think, as I said, he can have these slumps, but then he can just fucking go ballistic as well and just be an absolute warhorse. Aaron Clark there at 13, and then I've got Sam Healy, Jackson Ford, Dimitrik Valmunga, and Jacob Laban on the bench, bringing in a little bit of that youth. Jackson Ford, up and down the year last year, but I think that he can be a big minute front rower, take pressure off guys like Fish and Barnett, especially Barnett coming back from injury as well. I like the way that I've rounded up my bench I wouldn't be playing Kurt Capewell 80 this year. I'd be playing sort of 50-50, if not 60-40. I would have Kurt Capewell playing around 55 minutes, and then Jacob Laban would finish the game, in my opinion, there on the right back row. Biggest questions for the Wild this year. The first one is, should they go all in on their youth in the pack and at fullback? Obviously, we spoke about Tane Tuapiki already. I think the challenge is just a bit safer defensively at this stage. But I do think in the pack, they can definitely bring in a couple of the young guys. They've got Morgan Gannon, who I think they got from the Super League, and a couple of other guys coming in this year who I think will be very, very good and will be fighting for these sort of positions. So that'll definitely be a watch for sure. I do think that they sort of need to have that on the back of their mind. And I think that in this team list that I've got in front of me, they're doing that because guys like Murata Niokore and these sort of guys are missing out. I think I've done pretty well here in balancing it a little bit, but certainly there's some younger guys that will be fighting for spots in this team. The Sydney Poosters. Let's get stuck into the Roosters here. So I've got Teddy at fullback. I've got Daniel Tupou and Mark Nwanganitawase there on the wings. I've got Billy Smith and Rob Toya in the centres. DCE and Sam Walker there in the halves. I've got Nafa'u White and Lindsay Collins there in the front row. Reece Robson at 9. I've got Angus Crichton, Victor Radley back row with Connor Watson at 13. Hugo Savala is my 14 currently, although Benai Uelu will be very, very close. Celeste Foketi, Blake Steep, Spencer Lenu is my bench. Think this team list is pretty similar to others. This is also the team list that optically it looks like it's going to be named. I think they're going to find a spot for Hugo in this team after last year. I think that although I was pretty confident that they were going to leave him out and that there wasn't going to be room for him in this team, they've seemed to have made that room. I think that there is a little bit of concern around Radley and the head knocks as well. They're moving him into the back row, it seems, or at least from the photos and whatnot. Apparently, according to Willie Mason, that doesn't matter too much. But, I mean, I could understand them moving Radley into the back row this year and having Watson at 13. And then having Hugo Savala there at 14, using him as a bit of a utility that can come on at lock or that can also come on, potentially play a bit of a makeshift 9, although I don't like him at 9 because he's fucking huge. He is humongous. Too big to play 9, in my opinion. Even seeing him in person, he towers over me, and that never happened in high school. I mean, it did at the back end, but it certainly didn't at the start. Hugo Savala, I think they're going to find a way from him in this team. I think he will play a bit of a utility role this year. I think that's the role for him there at the Sydney Roosters. Watson moving into more of a 13 position, maybe backing up a little bit at 9. Obviously, Reece Robinson there at 9. Nafa'u White, for me, is a bona fide starting first grader. He is the Jared replacement that they have been searching for. It's not Spencer Leniu. It's not Lindsay Collins. It's not anyone else. It is Nafa'u White. He was outstanding last year. Sam Walker, definitely they need to give the keys to. DCE needs to stand back. So too a couple of other guys in this team. And let Sam Walker really make this team his own. Questions. And that sort of leads into the questions, I guess, as well. Are there too many chefs in the kitchen with the spine? We will have to wait and see. It's not a question I can answer right now. I've got to see this team play. I'd like to say no. I have the confidence that DCE will be able to rein it in a little bit. But, you do have those tendencies when you're a player, especially changing positions. You do sometimes go back to your old tendencies, and we've seen that in a number of occasions. DCE, I feel like, could sort of take some plays on and obviously lead some sets as well. But how often is he doing that? That's going to be the big question. And then you've got guys like Watson at 13. You've got Tedesco at fullback. You've got Robson at 9. Are there too many chefs in the kitchen? We'll have to wait and see. Second question, can DC take enough of a back step? We already sort of spoke about that just then. I think that I want to say that he can, but we'll have to wait and see. Parramatta. Isaiah Yongi, fullback. Again, don't need to explain that too much. He was terrific last year. We've got Josh Addo-Carr there on one wing with Bailey Simonson on the other. Sean Russell and Will Penasini there in the centres. I think that Sean Russell will start the year in the centres, and I think he's the much safer option. But to tell you what, Brian Kelly will be working his way in. The only reason I have Sean Russell in there at the moment is purely based on defence. And as much as I love Brian Kelly, and I think that he could definitely take that spot and do exceptionally well, I just want to see a couple of games in New South Wales Cup first and know that the defence is sorted. And then I'd bring him back in because Sean Russell's leaving to go to Perth anyway. So that's sort of the thing I'm waiting for. But my best 17 currently has Sean Russell in there because I know that Sean Russell is safe. I know that I'm going to get a 7 or 8 out of 10 from him every week. Whereas Bailey Simonson, I could get a 10 out of 10 and a 2 out of 10 week to week. And that's just not good enough in my opinion. Bailey Simonson there, I think that he will be the replacement for Lomax, at least in the short term, but I definitely think it could be a long-term fix. I think that they are very similar players athletically. Injuries are the worry, and I think that he is coming into this season with an injury as well, but I think that he is definitely the replacement. The athleticism is unbelievable. He's a great player. And Addo-Carr is definitely keeping that spot. Australian winger. He is in there. Pezzett and Moses. Hearing really good things from Pezzett, the Pezzett side of things. Had Talking Para, Adam from Talking Para podcast, he put a thing on his Instagram page. I do want to get it up. But he was absolutely loving Jonah Pezzett. Let me just find it here. He says, I've been lucky enough to see 2 training sessions in the last week. What I will say is Jonah Pezzett has really impressed me. His leadership direction and his plays he has come up with have been great to watch. Hot on his tails, Joash and Lorenzo were also very impressive today as well. I was happy to voice my opinion about Jonah signing early on. I thought it was dumb for 1 year. No doubt a quality player, but I'll happily eat my words if he carries over what I've seen on the training paddock onto the field. Very, very good signs from Jonah Pezzett. So very exciting. I think that is probably the best possible thing you want to hear from Jonah Pezzett going into this year. If him and Moses can build a really, really nice combination, then they can sort of take turns and take pressure off each other, kicking game-wise, sets-wise, all that sort of stuff. This is going to be a top 4 team, in my opinion. I really do think so, especially with the signs they were showing at the back end of last year. Hopgood, Jack Williams are in the front row for me. I think that Jack Williams, he is a huge unit. I love him in the middle. I think that as good as he is on the edge, I think there's a couple of guys fighting for the edge spots. I do like him in the middle. It does add to your front row stocks, especially when you've got Hopwood, sorry. No, it is Hopgood. What am I talking about? Hopgood starting in the front row there. He's a little bit smaller. I think it does make sense to have Williams there to really beef up your pack. You got Dylan Walker at 13 as well in my pack. So love Jack Williams in the middle. Riley Smith at 9. I have got Kitione Kaltoga with how well he played last year. He starts on the left edge for me. I've got Charlie Geimer on the right, and this was after a discussion with Sav. I had Kelma Tuolangi there before because I heard some good things about him. And, I think that, especially towards the back end of last year, Kelma Tuolangi played some decent footy too. But Charlie Geimer for me is the future. I really, really do like Charlie Geimer. That game against the Raiders, he's stuck in my mind from last year. Scored 2 tries, looked the absolute treat. I know that you can't really judge a player off one game, but even little bits and pieces from him when he's come off the bench here and there and stuff like that, I think he's a great player, runs a great line. I think that Charlie Geimer will be their starting right back row. I've got him in there at the moment. I've got Dylan Walker at 13. As much as I can love him off the bench, and I think he'd do a really good job there as well. I've got him at 13 at the moment. Could change. I mean, you know what? He was so good off the bench last year, but I just want to have a couple more forwards on my bench. So he's starting 13 at the moment, but I could take the argument either way for either Jack DeBellin to start at 13 or Dylan Walker. Either way is perfect for me. My bench currently as it stands is Talon De Silva, Jack DeBellin, Junior Paulo, who I think Junior Paulo off the bench is going to be great. I think that I wouldn't start him this year. I'd have him off the bench. He'll do some great things there. Sam Tuiviti will be fighting it out for me with Kelma Tuolangi. I think Sam Tuiviti will win that spot in jersey number 17. The biggest question marks around Parramatta, in my opinion, are can 2 halfbacks work and not take away from each other? That's going to be the big one for me. This pairing, that's what a lot of people are concerned about at the moment. Are they going to take away from each other? That's the big question on everyone's lips. We'll have to wait and see. And then the second one, are they good enough to contend with Storm, Broncos, and Panthers? That's pretty much my only question marks around Parramatta. I think they are a top 4 side. The question is, are they going to beat the other top 4 sides? Penrith. Speaking of Penrith. Dylan Edwards is my fullback. I've got Brian To'o and Paul Alamotti currently on the wings. Expect that to change because Tom Jenkins isn't too far away. And Tom Jenkins was the winger all year last year. And if he does start the year there, I'm not going to be shocked in the slightest because he has got so much upside. But so does Paul Alamotti. And from what we saw last year, you sit there and you scratch your head and you go, how was Paul Alamotti not in this team all fucking year last year? It blows my mind. Brian To'o obviously there. Paul Alamotti there as well. They're pretty much clones of each other, except Paul Alamotti can just do some freakish shit. Casey McLean, left centre, especially after last year. And then I've got Isaac Sengol. I've got him there in the right centre position. Much improved back end of last year compared to the start of the season. Definitely improved towards the back end of the year. Blaze Solangi in the 6. Again, talking about constant improvers. This guy was definitely one of those. Absolutely unreal. Especially the back end of the season when he just, slowly got better and better as he was coming in. Came in as a mistake. Not as a mistake. Cleary went down with the HIA. Came in as the 18th man. They weren't planning on bringing him in that early. Kept him in there. Blooded him through, trusted the process, and he's turned into a terrific number 6. Nathan Cleary there, the 7. Moses Leota and Lindsay Smith there in the front row. I think that's pretty obvious. Mitch Kenny, 9. I've got Luke Garner starting left back row. It's between him and Isaiah Papali'i, but I think Luke Garner is the better starting back rower, and Isaiah Papali'i was just too good for me in that middle role to take him out of it. Luke Garner and Liam Martin to start the year in the back row. Isaiah Yeo at 13. My bench is one of my predictions for a breakout player, and that's number 14, Freddie Lussick. I think that he's in for a huge year. I think that he can suit this side so well. I think that him and Mitch Kenny can be very similar, and especially over the past couple of years, with Freddie Lussick building a lot of size on his frame, playing more middle for the Warriors and New South Wales Cup games. I think that he can be very similar to Mitch Kenny. They can just get through some really tough work. But I can see him also coming on and having a bit of flair as well around tied forwards, in and around the ruck. Awesome, very solid defender as well. He'll come in and he'll do a job. I think that he'll have a bit of a breakout year. Freddie Lussick, Liam Henry, Scott Sorensen, and Isaiah Papali'i round out my bench. Papali'i, Liam Henry to play in the middle, be those bullies there through the middle, and Scott Sorensen can play a bit of middle as well. Take Yo off for a little bit of a spell. I think that he can certainly do that role well. We saw it at the back end of last year, and even in that semi-final, I thought that he was one of the better players for Penrith too, off the bench. Questions. Could their opening rounds, their draw, be costly to them, building enough momentum in the season to make the finals? I think so. I think that that's definitely going to be the watch. Again, it's a question we're going to have to wait and see for, but that's definitely a huge question for them this year, Penrith. Second one, can they go to another level again this year, come September, or will they fatigue? Or will fatigue start to get into them? It was a question that was asked on Levels, and it's the reason that Willie Mason, I think, left the Penrith Panthers out of his 8. It is such a brutal and successful system in the NRL now. They've been in the past couple grand finals. They do that for a reason. The lack of injuries out of Penrith for the most part at the moment as well speaks to that, or at least how quickly players come back from those injuries. I think it's a really successful unit there at Penrith. I think they will be in the conversation for the grand final this year, and I do think they'll still be able to go to another level come September. I think they'll really taper well throughout their season. I think you'll expect a really strong start, sort of end the conversation with the naysayers about that draw, and then they'll sort of drop down a little bit in form and sort of ease off in the middle part of the season, and then really peak up when it comes to finals. Melbourne. We've got some good teams here all in a row. Melbourne Storm, we got Su'a-Fa'alogo at fullback, obviously with Ryan Papenhuyzen and his departure. Xavier Coates and Will Warbrick there on the wings. I've got Jack Howarth, Nick Meaney centres. I think that's pretty obvious. Nick Meaney, I think, is the only one that's a little bit under pressure there in the centres. I think that there are a couple of guys that will be fighting for that spot, especially with Nick Meaney. Obviously going off to Perth next year, you've got guys like Manaia Wateri, who's been training very, very well. He's been doing reps at fullback as well. So that'll definitely be a watch. But you've got a couple of guys fighting for that centre spot. So that'll be definitely one to keep an eye on. Obviously, if Lomax comes to the Melbourne Storm, which doesn't really look as likely now, but it could still very much happen. There'll be a bit of movement in that back line. Nick Meaney might lose his spot. But at the moment, he's in there for me. I think he was pretty solid for the most part last year. Defense was obviously the issue. Munster and Hughes halves. Again, no real need to go too deep into that. Josh King and Stefano front row. I've got Harry Grant 9. I've got Jack Hetherington and Sean Bloor currently in the back row. I think Atavalo Lissardi, just his leg speed and his playing style, I love him off the bench. Hetherington's just your stalwart. He can play decent minutes, in that back row position, run really good lines, keep it very simple on that left edge. And then you got your Howarths and your Coates that can do the pretty incredible stuff. So Hetherington at the moment's the edge back row, but it sounds like Atavalo has won that spot. Sean Bloor, right back row, I think he'll move over to the other side of the park. I think that whoever is the one that come in for Eli Katoa, they'll be playing on the left-hand side. I think that Sean Bloor will move over to the other side of the field. Could be totally wrong, and you can ask what's the point of that with Sean Bloor having to move back there anyway once Eli Katoa comes back. I think I like Sean Bloor. I think that there was a couple of games there where he was playing very, very well next to Cam Munster, but it just seems like it hasn't been a combination that's really gelled well. It hasn't been a combination that suits. I feel like you need someone with a little bit more upside. In saying that, does Jack Hetherington have more upside than Sean Bloor? Probably not. Maybe Atavalo Lissardi does. But yeah, look, at the moment, I've got Jack Hetherington in there. Obviously, we'll wait and see what happens. But I do think that Sean Bloor will have to move to the other side of the park. And I think, anyway, when Eli Katoa does come back, I think Sean Bloor will probably be a bench player going into the following season. That's just my vibe anyway. Trent Talau, 13. Then I've got Tyron Wishart. I've got Davey Mawali. I've got Alec McDonald. I've got Atavalo Lissardi on my bench. That's my side there for the Melbourne Storm. Biggest question that I've got here for the Melbourne Storm is, can they get into another grand final, or have they or have the surrounding sides caught up? Fucking massive question there from me. I think surrounding sides potentially have caught up. I don't think Melbourne are a top 4 side next year. I think they're a top 8 side. I don't think they're a top 4 side. I think they will drop off a little bit. I don't have them currently in my grand final. However, if Lomax walks into the door, they probably are going to be in the grand final. I think that changes a lot in regards to talent factor. And then the bonus question, if Lomax does come, is he a fullback, centre, or a winger? I think he'll be a right centre for Meaney. There is every chance he goes to fullback, in my opinion. I do not think he comes in as a centre 100%. I think there's every chance he plays fullback. For St. George, let's get stuck straight into it. We'll move through this a little bit quickly. I've been going for 35 odd minutes, so we will smash through these. For St. George, we've got Gartho at fullback. We've got David Farley or Tui Pilotu on the wing. I think it will be David Farley to start the year at left wing. Obviously, pending trials. And again, you guys will know more about that than me. They'll be playing on the same side in the trials. They'll be playing together. You'll get a bit more of a vibe there. Trials haven't happened at time of recording. I've got David Farley just in front of Tui Pilotu at this stage. I've got Setu on the right wing. I think that he'll lock down that one. But, you've got guys like Tyrell Sloan. You've got guys like, come to me names, Matthew Fiangai. Plenty of guys fighting for that position. So that isn't confirmed either. Val Holmes and Moses Sawley in the centres. Those for me are confirmed. Flanagan, Atkinson in the halves. It sounds like Atco is the 7 with Flanagan as the 6. Emre Gula for me starts up front with Toby Couchman. I've got Damien Cook at 9. I've got Jaden Sewer and Jacob Hollangahu in the back rows. However, I have heard some pretty decent rumours, and at the moment we are seeing potentially Ryan Couchman start in one of those back row spots. I think Jaden Sewer plays. It's going to be Hollangahu or Ryan Couchman in the other back row position. I've currently got Hollangahu there. Hamish Stewart, he is my 13. And then I've got Jacob Little, who is out to start 2026 for the first couple of weeks with a hammy injury. But in my best 17, he's the 14. It will be one of the Finu brothers who you will see at 9 on the weekend. And you'll get more of a read than, again, I will. Dylan Egan, he is jersey 15. I've got Luciano Leilua / Loka Pacifica Tonga. Luciano Leilua is going to win that jersey because he has come into this year unbelievable. I've only heard over the past week or so just his fitness and how he's looking. And then Josh Kerr / Hame Sele. I think realistically it's going to be Hame Sele. I think Josh Kerr is going to come in for games here and there, and he was great for the Dolphins, but I think he is more of a leader, cultural guy. I don't think he'll be playing a lot of games. I think they will be backing in some of their younger guys. You'll see Loco Pacifica Tonga, Ryan Couchman, these sort of guys work their way into this team. I even think there's every opportunity, we're talking about Ryan Couchman here. I think that there's every opportunity that St. George go with an all-forward bench and Damien Cook plays 80 minutes. Every opportunity that happens. So we'll have to wait and see. Biggest questions around St. George. Is can Atkinson at 7 work? I think it can. If you watch that Melbourne game, I think that you will know that is something that will work or can work. Can they hold on to their leads in the second halves? That's going to be one to watch throughout the season. And can they avoid too many errors if they are taking more risks in attack? Damien Cook came out the other week and said that they were going to take more risks in attack and chance their arm a little bit more. Obviously, the error count for St. George was already high. If they do take risk and make more errors, are they going to end up in a similar position than they were last year? I think there's every chance that happens. So they need to take more calculated risks. That's going to be the big watch for St. George going into this year. For the Manly Seagulls, Tom Trbojevic is my fullback. Lehigh is going to start the year on the wing, in my opinion. You've got Jason Saab on the other wing. I've got Tolu Kula at left centre. Ruben Garrick, right centre. Think that he's pretty self-explanatory. Brooks and Fogarty in the halves. Brooks is under a bit of pressure. I think that there is every opportunity for Joey Walsh to take that 6 jersey. I really do. And I love Luke Brooks, but Joey Walsh is an unbelievable player. He's been carving up in the lower grades, and if he makes a great first impression, maybe he takes that spot, and maybe we do see Brooks move into a little bit of a 14-ish role. Big call, maybe. But I think there's every chance that happens. And, conversations with Sav a couple of weeks ago when we did the Manly preview sort of put me onto that idea, to be fair. Fogarty there at 7. I've got Taniela Paseka and Jake Trbojevic in the front row. Jake Simkin is at 9. Ben Trbojevic and Amole Olakawatu there in the back row. Kobe Hetherington's at 13. Gerbo front row, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Slow down quite a bit. I want to take as much pressure off Gerbo as possible. Just want him to get the run the footy and to be a really aggressive 45, 50, maybe even 60-minute front rower that just gets through the tough shit, fucking defends well, doesn't have to really be that ball player and have that pressure on him. Move that to a Kobe Hetherington. Jake Trbojevic just has a real simple role. I think that's going to be the best possible thing for Gerbo. Joey Walsh there at 14. I think they will give him first grade time. Ethan Bullymore, Caleb Navale, and Co Siwa Dakyaho. Biggest question mark, about Manly before we move on is, can Jamal Fogarty replace DCE well enough where it's like for like and Manly don't need to change their game plan too much? No. Two different players for me. I think that they will change their game plan up a little bit to suit Fogarty. I think the kicking game is very, very good for both DCE and Fogarty, so that's obviously going to be great, replacing that sort of phase, like for like. But I certainly do think there will be things that change in the way that Manly play, maybe for the better, especially with Kobe Hetherington moving into that 13 jersey. You have a bit more of a mobile 13 there. I think they'll play a bit of a different style of footy, which will suit them a lot better. Do they have the pack to contend with the other sides? No, they don't, in my opinion. I feel like they do need another one or two really strong front rowers to contend with the top sides in this competition. Should they back in Joey Walsh now via the bench and get him into first grade? I've got him on my bench, so my answer to that is yes. And is Turbo, if Turbo is injury-free, are they good enough as a team to make finals and go deep? No, not this year for me. I think they can potentially make finals, but when it comes to contending with those top sides, they probably won't go further than the first or second week. That's just my opinion. Let's move through Gold Coast Titans. My side for them is Keanu Kinney at fullback. I've got Jalen DeGroot and Jojo Fafita on the wings. I've got Philip Sami and Max Fiangai in the centers. Their depth is fucking scary. It's worrying. I've got the question there. You obviously skipping ahead a little bit. Is their depth in the middle worrying? Their depth in the back line is fucking scary. It's scary. They're one injury away from having to get permission to bring a development player in or playing both of them are in the centers again this year. Like, scary, scary times. Keanu Kinney fullback, Jalen DeGroot and Jojo Fafita on the wings currently. I've got Phil Sami and Max Fiangai there in the centers. I've got AJ Brimson and Jaden Campbell in the halves. That's the way it's going to look. We've just got to accept that now. I would have Lockie Ilias in my starting halfback position if I was going and actually being Josh Hannay for a day and picking a team. But Josh Hannay is backed in Jaden Campbell to be the 7 and he's backed in AJ Brimson to be the 6, and they've had a full preseason in that position. As much as I think there's a lot of concerns around kicking games and whatnot, and it probably doesn't work. 3 fullbacks, I mean, it's a fucking huge risk to take, but that's the risk that they're taking. You've just got to accept it. Newly signed on, newly locked in. Tino Faisal-Malawi, congratulations to Titans and Titans fans. Tino there, starting in the front row. Mo Fotuaika there also. Sam Varrells at 9. I think that all of the rumours about him leaving that we've discussed on the podcast pretty much have been put to bed or have gone silent. So for now, he is a Gold Coast Titans. Sam Verrills, Bo Firma, he's in one back row spot on the left side with Chris Randall. In my best 17, even though they've come out and they've said that Chris Randall is going to be a middle, in my best side, he's a back rower because he played so well there last year. Cooper Bai is my best 13. I think that by end of season, he will be there 13. And then I've got Luke Summerton, Klesse Haas, Jamin Jolliffe, and Curtis Moran there on the bench. Bit of a smaller pack, but Jamin Jolliffe makes up for that a little bit. And even Klesse Haas, he's put on a bit of size as well. So I think they're going to do well enough to at least, win some games, get into the top part of that bottom 8. And go better than they did last year. And definitely not really... Oh, not definitely not. They'll be close, but I don't know if they will be near spoon side this year. I highly doubt it. Biggest question marks, talked about the depth, but the other question mark is, should they bring Ilias into the 7 jersey and have an actual halfback in there? Is Campbell good enough to be 7? Campbell is good enough to be 7, sorry, but AJ doesn't have the long kicking game. Yeah, I'm more worried about AJ than I am about Jaden Campbell in this halves pairing. I think that my answer to this would be yes, but I want to see how this looks first for the first couple of weeks, and if it's fucking what we think it's going to be with the kicking game, then I'd be making changes from then. South. We've got Jai Gray at fullback. We've got Alex Johnston and we've got Campbell Graham on the wings, Latrell Mitchell and Jack Whiten in the centres. That's how they're training. I went to training today at time of recording, and that's the way that they were training. They were training with Cody Walker, definitely in the 6 jersey. The 7, to start the year, in my opinion, will be Jonah Glover, because Bud Sullivan's got an injury. It sounds like he has got a bit of an infection in his knee from the surgery. So he's out to start the year. Jonah Glover, for me, is just going to be the 7. He's going to start the year. They have the first 2 games while Jamie Humphries is out. I think he locks in that spot. I think he's really, really good. He suits the South style of play. I was speaking to chaps on Rabbitohs Radio about it today. That's the way I think that they're going to go. Tavita Totola, they're in the front row with Keon Kalamatangi. I've got Peter Mamazoulis in the 9 position, although Brandon Smith is training there. Brandon Smith is training in the starting 9 position. So I could very easily have Peter Mamo on the bench, but just with how my bench is structured, that's not the way that I'm going to go. Peter Mamo starts at 9 for me. I've got Dave Fafita there on the left back row. That's where the way that they're training. It looks like Jai Arrow is probably going to be the right back rower. I didn't really get too much of a good look at that right edge, or we were only there for about 5 or so minutes at training. So I got a brief look. I definitely saw a lot more of the left edge because they were the attacking team at that stage. Yeah, for me, it'd be Jai Arrow. Just take a little bit of a load off his shoulders, especially after last year. Murray at 13, obviously. Jamie Humphries is my 14. I think he's still good enough to be in the side. He can play a bit of hooker. He can come on at lock and provide a little bit of a longer kicking game there, similar to the role he was playing at the back end of the year. Tallis Duncan, 15. He will earn his way into the starting side at some stage, and I think that they might try and mould him into that right back row position, even though he is a better left side player. I think Dave Fafita, that's his spot, especially after watching him today and seeing him today. That's Dave Fafita's spot. Tallis Duncan will probably be a middle to start the year, progressing into a right back row role. I've got one of Lockie Hubner, Sean Kepi, or Celeste Atata. And Celeste Atata, obviously more known to South fans and South faithful there. I've got one of those 3 in jersey 16. I think it can go to any one. Depends on the size of the bench and what you want. For me, I think by end of year, it'll be Celeste Atata, but I think to start the year, it'll be Lockie Hubner. Love Lockie Hubner. I think that he deserves to be in the 17 somewhere, but Atata is going to force his way into this side at some stage. Brandon Smith at 17, you've got to have him in the side. He looks terrific. I think that he probably will start the year at 9 with Humphries out. But I do think that he might move into a middle role when they try to sort this situation out with Jamie Humphries and whatnot. Jamie Humphries could play cup as well, and Brandon Smith could play 14, and then they could have one of Kepi, or Atata in jersey 17 as well. You've also got a couple of guys that could come in and lucky Tom Fletchers and stuff like that as well in jersey 17. So there you go. Question marks around South Sydney is, can they have a year unaffected with injury? Hopefully. We'll have to wait and see. Who is their halfback? Glover, Humphries, or Sullivan? For me, it's Glover. And can they make a real impact from centre? Can Trell make a real impact from centre? I think he can. I think that's his best position. Raiders. Kyle Weeks, he is my fullback. I've got Samelio Tamale, sorry. Jesus, that took a while. On one wing, with Xavier Savage on the other, although Sione Finu will be fighting for a spot, so that'll be a big year in store for Xavier Savage, hopefully injury-free. Timoko, Seb Chris centers. I've got Ethan Strange at 6. I think Kobe Black is their best choice at 7, although Ethan Sanders will start the year there. I think that Kobe Black will be their best option and will be there by end of year. Joe Tarpanay and Corey Horsburgh are my front rowers. I've got Tom Starling at 9. Corey Horsburgh and Hudson Young back row with Simi Sasangi at 13. And then I've got Owen Paddy, Morgan Smithies, Josh Papali'i and Asa Mariota there on the bench. I think that's the best possible side. I love the makeup of that team. Guys like Morgan Smithies will miss out. A few other guys will miss out as well. Jaden Bradley obviously being one of those. I think you have to do with Tom Starling and Iron Paddy. Otherwise, you're a bit cuckoo. I think that's the best possible way to go. I think that is their best team. Brackets 8 to 12. I didn't really say the bracket for the other sides, but you can see it there. Probably won't talk about it too much because we've already done our ladder prediction with Jake Marketo and Riley from Green Palm Sports as well. So that podcast is live now. After this one, you can go and watch it. But the biggest questions are for the Raiders. Was letting go of Fogarty for the 2026 season the wrong call? I believe it was. I think they should have given Black and Sanders time in Cup to play together as a halves pairing and fight for the spot going into the following year and just work their way slowly into first grade. I think they could have had Fogarty there for one more year. Does Jaden Bradley make the side? Fuck no. And Black or Sanders, I've got Kobe Black currently, for me, ahead just because I think he suits their style of play more. He's the more explosive player. They've got a very explosive side. Second phase, Kobe Black's unbelievable. I think that is the halfback to go. And just from what I've seen from Sanders, so far, he's not that dude, unfortunately. Cowboys, let's take a look at the Cows. I've got Scott Drinkmilk there at fullback. I've got Murray Taulagi and Braden Burns on the wings. Braden Burns was terrific at right wing last year. Wouldn't change it. I feel like since Kyle Felt, that was the name I was looking for. Since Kyle Felt, they haven't really had a guy that has had experience in the back line, even since Val Holmes and whatnot. So having a guy like Braden Burns in there is beautiful. Tom Chester, for me, will be their left centre, although Laybutt and James Walsh would have previously. He's unfortunately had an injury, which will rule him out for majority of this year. Probably won't be back until later in the year, maybe closer to finals. So wishing James Walsh all the best. He would have been very close and definitely neck and neck with Chester for that spot and Laybutt. For me, Chester will start the year there if he can get back from this injury. Viliami Vailea is a set and forget at right centre in my opinion, from what I've seen from him so far. Dearden 6, Jackson Purdue 7 is the way that they're looking to go. It's not the way that I would go, but it's the way they're looking to go, best 17 wise. I think if they are going to be their best attacking selves though, and they can get this to work, it can be a part of their best 17. That's why I've got them there. Griffin Neame and Cohen Hess in the front row. I think you got to have a mixture of experience there. That's generally how I build my side. That argument would probably suggest that Jason Taumalolo's in the starting side somewhere. He isn't. I think that Jason Taumalolo is, at this stage of his career, a better bench player. Reid Marnie at 9. I've got Jeremiah Nanai and Hylam Luki in the back row. Although Jeremiah Nanai will be out to start the year with a bit of an injury. So Hylam Luki will probably be there alongside. I mean, McIntyre's been training there. Maybe Cotter, you can move in there for a little bit to start the year and have McIntyre at 13. Yeah, to be seen. And then my bench is Tom McHaley, Jason Taumalolo, Sam McIntyre, and one of... I didn't have Tom McHaley there before, so we can edit that out. It'll probably be John Bateman. But you have also got, there is a name that is escaping me, that's annoying me, Caden Lars. Caden Lars will be the other guy fighting for jersey 17. Should have probably double-checked this before pressing record. Biggest cues, Clifford or Purdue. It sounds like it's going to be Purdue, although I would like to have a little bit of a safer guy on Clifford. But then again, even with Clifford, like, you could have an 8 out of 10 and a 4 out of 10 from Clifford sometimes as well. The consistency isn't there at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, it's chalk and cheese. Depends on what you prefer. But I probably would just feel a little bit safer with Purdue, just kicking game and having an actual bona fide halfback in there. It's similar sort of arguments to Newcastle, to be fair. But this one, I'm keen to see Purdue there at 7 because he came through as a 7. Should Purdue be developed further as a centre or even as a fullback rather than half? Yes, I think that he'd be a great fullback. I think that Drinkwater could do well at 6, although I probably wouldn't move I wouldn't move Drinkwater out of fullback. For me, at least, I'd be very happy to move Purdue back to centre, and I feel like if he doesn't start the year crush hot at halfback, they'll move him back to centre anyway. And then the other question was, is this side good enough to make this the 8? Even if Purdue at 7 works, I don't think it is. I think other sides are better. Cowboys for me are the spoon team, just with the optics around it at the moment. You then got the Finns, which is side I'm much more excited about. Let's get through these. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, he's at fullback. I've got Bostock at his absolute best back from injury there on the left wing with Jermaine Asako right side. Farnworth and Cobbo in the centres, which rules out Jake Avarillo. Cody Nikorima at the moment is my 6, but fighting for that spot will be Kurt Donahue, who is just freshly re-signed for another year and a bit. Isaiah Katoa there at 7. I've got Daniel Saifidi and Tom Flegler in the front row. Tom Flegler hopefully back to his best. Later in the year, he'll be in that starting role again. Jeremy Marshall-King at 9. I've got Colony Lemuelu back row after his terrific season in 2025. Max Plath will be on the right side. You've got to fit him in somewhere. Morgan Knowles at 13 just to beef up the pack in the middle a little bit. And, they've heard great things. They're confident enough to throw him there to start the year anyway. I've got Morgan Knowles at 13. Donahue 14. Francis Molo or Ray Stone at 15, undecided. Gilbert is definitely in there somewhere, so he'll be jersey 16. And then one of Oren Keeley or Felice Kafusi, which will probably be gun to head if I'm picking my 17. It'd probably be Kurt Donahue. On my bench, it'd be Kurt Donahue. Gun to head, Francis Molo, just by a bee's dick. By a bee's dick. He's in front. Ray Stone is only just behind. Gilbert, and then probably Oren Keeley because Felice Kafusi is getting on a little bit. Big Q's around the Finns. Is this their year for finals? I think it is. And can they all stay injury-free? And if so, are they good enough to contend with the top sides in the comp when they get to finals, obviously? Yes, I do. I think their side is stacked. I think if there's any year for them to potentially go for even a grand final, with how fucking stuck this team is, it's this year. Let's go to the Broncos. Speaking of grand finals, this will probably be the grand final winner of 2026, or at least it's the grand final of 2026 that I'm sort of looking at here. It's the boring answer, but I think it's the right one. Reece Walsh at fullback. I've got Josiah Karapani or Grant Anderson. I think that those two will be fighting it out for left wing. With Dean Mariner locking his spot in at right wing. I think that everyone that's been saying Dean Mariner's position is under threat doesn't get it. Karapani's the newbie. He'll be the one fighting with Grant Anderson, who's a bona fide first grader. Gemma Chibasaki there, left centre, with Tony Staggs, right centre. The two Australian centres. You've got Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds in the halves. Payne Haas and Xavier Willison there in the front row. Ben Hunt at 9. Brendan Piakura and Jordan Ricky in the back row. Paddy Carrigan, 13. Blake Moser is my 14, with Ben Decora, Corey Jensen, and All Blacks Tower joining him on the bench. All Blacks Tower will probably start the year in the left back row position with Brendan Piakura obviously a bit injured. And we will see that in the World Club Challenge in the next couple of weeks. Other than that, not much else to talk about here. This is the pretty similar side to last year. The only real freshie is Grant Anderson. Question marks around the Broncos is, can they go back-to-back? Yes, they can, and I think they will. Can they keep Reno on the park long enough to go back-to-back? That's the big question. And then should they look to bring through the next crop of hookers? I think they will, and I think they'll be forced to with injuries and whatnot. Obviously, Billy Walters out for majority of the year. Blake Moser is the 14, in my opinion. We've got 2 more sides to go, so let's rip through it, or 3 sides to go. The Tigers, we've got Dream Buller at fullback. We've got Hamasi Makasini probably winning the spot over Joel Skelton on the left wing, with Sania Taruva on the right side. Taylor May and Stafford Toa in the centres. I've got Jerome Luai and Adam Dewey. What is Adam doing here? Adam Dewey there in the 7 jersey with Jerome Luai at 6. I've got Terrell May and Alex Twall in the front row. Tristan Hope is my starting 9. Happy Coruscant is coming off the bench. I think he does need less minutes in this side. I think that just with the way that he's getting older, they did the exact same thing at Penrith. I think that's the way that you've got to go. Samuel Afanu and Kai Pearce-Paul in the back row. I've got Laitu Fanu 13, Coruscant, Sione Fainu, Whenua Pole, and Tony Sukar on the bench. Everyone looks at putting star players on the bench and they go, so disrespectful. Who do you think you are? It's Api Coruscant. You fucking start him. Sure, I think Api Korosa's playing less minutes. They did the exact same thing at Penrith, and no one can really complain there. I think this is just a pretty much copy and paste of that. I think that Tristan Hope will take that 9 role. He'll play a majority of the minutes there. You'll have Api Korosa playing at least 35 minutes, with Tristan Hope probably, playing a majority of the game. Big questions around the Tigers. Are they good enough to play finals? Yes. I don't have them in my finals this year. Should the Tigers look at lowering Api's minutes? I think they should, and that's what we sort of said just there already. For the Dogs, the mighty Dogs, you can tell this podcast has been going for a long time. We've got Connor Tracy at fullback, Marcelo Montoya and Jacob Kiraz on the wings, Bronson Sherry and Stephen Crichton in the centres. Got Matt Burton and Lockie Galvin there in the halves. You got Leo Thompson and Max King in the front row with Bally Hayward at 9. Viliami Kikau and Jacob Preston back row. Jamin Salmon / Finau Latu at 13. I think that Finau Latu will work his way into this side. When he does come back from injury, he's going to be out for the next month or so. And then you've got Kurt Mann, Seli Tupanua, one off, Josh Curran, Jack Todd, Sam Hughes, or Finau Latu. If Finau Latu doesn't start at lock. And then Harry Hayes. I think Harry Hayes is in the lock. I think Seli Tupanua is also a lock in this side. So I've got one of Curran, Todd, Sam Hughes, and Finau Latu. Obviously taking jersey 16. I think that's the only bench spot up for grabs at the moment since Josh Curran is leaving. A lot of raps around Jack Todd. Another guy that could be fighting for that spot is Jack Underhill as well. That would definitely be one to watch. Big questions around the Dogs. Do they have the pack to go all the way? No, not at this stage. I think that there are still better packs out there, but I do think that if they can make everything work, and even if they do go with Woods and Galvin and it still works out, Critter has a big year. The Dogs go well, that Leo Thompson comes out and kills it and proves a lot of haters wrong. I think that they have this overall side to go deep into finals, but I don't think they have the pack to go all the way. I don't think they have the side to go all the way. I think they've decided to get into finals and go deep, but not all the way. Woods or Burton is obviously another one. For me, it's Burton, and it's not even a conversation. But for the Dogs, it sounds like they're going to go the way of Woods, which I'm not very keen about. And then also, should they have made the call to let go of Mahoney and Sexton? I don't think they should have. And I've been pretty open about that on the podcast. Let's get this done and dusted, guys. We've got one more team to go, and that is the Cronulla Sharks. We've got Will Kennedy at fullback. We've got Ronaldo Mulatalo on the left wing with Sione Katoa right. Yes, I know Ronaldo is out to start the year, so Stone Street will take that spot. Ronaldo is obviously the left winger for me. I do think that Stone Street will put a bit of pressure on Sione Katoa, if anything. Once Ronaldo Mulatalo is back, I think Stone Street will put a bit of pressure to stay in this side, and that'll be on Sione Katoa, who I think, obviously I've contracted at the end of the year, who I think could potentially be going to Perth. Kale Iro and Jesse Ramian in the centres. Another guy that could probably go to Perth. Jesse Ramian, if he gets an early release from the Sharks, which I think sounds pretty likely from little whispers. Trindle and Nico in the halves. I've got Toby Rudolph and Adam Fanor-Blake in the front row with Blake Brayley at 9. Teague Wilton and Britton Nickora in the back row. I've got Cam McInnes when he's back at 13 with the bench of Oren Keeley, Jesse Colquhoun, Tom Hazelton and Siasi Fatalakai. For me, Blake Brayley is the only 80-minute hooker in the competition. I think every other hooker needs a 14, other than maybe Reid Marnie. But I think Reid Marnie will end up with a 14 anyway, midpoint throughout the year. I think Sonny Luke will force his way into first grade. So Blake Brayley for me is the only hooker that doesn't need a 14, in my opinion. And then the biggest question marks around the Sharks is, can they beat Storm and Broncos in the big dance? I think that they're a grand final threat with this side that they've got this year, and obviously limited changes, another year with the full team. I think that's only a good thing. So I think that they will be sniffing around the grand final, and I think that they can beat those sides, and they were very close to beating Melbourne, and I think they'll give the Broncos a real shake. I'd love to see that match up this year and just see where both of these sides are at. What's the plan with Kennedy? And do they bring Ison in soon? I think that Kennedy will see throughout the year. I think I love Will Kennedy. I think that he, is good. Ison's plays really, really well. There is a bit of chat there. It is a conversation. I do like Will Kennedy, though. I think Will Kennedy will keep his spot throughout this year. And if they do decide to extend him to next year as well, because this is a contract year for Will Kennedy, then they might, if he plays very, very well. Otherwise, there is a conversation that maybe Ison does take that spot going into the following year. Depends on how the Sharks play as well, in my opinion. There you go, guys. That is your predicted team list for this year. If you did enjoy that podcast, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, become a part of the big LEZ'S League community, and we'll see you guys in the next one.